the relationship to money is a real relationship.
Mhm.
And I know I can speak for myself, I grew up with a real poverty mindset. And when I was 21, I had a quantum shift around my money.
What was that shift?
It was
Gabrielle Bernstein, a role model for spiritual seekers.
And I want people to think about their relationship with money. And maybe they've never thought about it before. But if money were a person in your life, who would that person be and how would you treat them? So imagine you walked into a room or you were in a room and money walked in. What would your initial response be?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
I'd be like, what's up, my bestie? I'd be like, we good. And it would be really like a really connected relationship, like almost like when you walked in the room.
Yeah.
That's
like a
how,
big hug.
like big hug, best
how are you
friend,
doing?
feel so supported,
Yes.
so connected. That is the coolest question ever. If money walked into the room, if it was a person walking into the room, how would you react?
How would you feel initially? How would you emotionally feel? And then how would you respond? It's funny, I've asked a lot of people this, and there's someone close to me that I asked this to. I was like, if money were a person and it came in the room, how would you react? And they said, I would avoid it. I would run away. I would ghost it, but I'd want to use and abuse it if it came to me.
Yeah.
And I go, interesting. Imagine how money must feel if you think of it that way, if you have that feeling of it that way, and if you use it in that way. Imagine if that was a friend of yours or a person in your life, and you ghosted them, you abused them, you avoided eye contact, you ran away from it, but then you needed it only when you needed to buy something. That would not be a good relationship in your life. And I want everyone listening or watching to imagine and either leave a comment somewhere on how your relationship with money is right now. If it were a person, how would you show up to it? Again, are you besties? If so, then you probably have a more secure relationship with money. Or are you more avoidant or anxious around money? And based on that attachment style towards a person in your life, you're probably going to have a similar attachment style to money based on your money story and your money style. And it all depends on how you grew up around money. And these things tie into not only money, but again, how you are intimately in your relationships. So these things kind of all tie together.
Yeah. And you're the master of relationships here. And
because I've failed at so many of them. So I've learned.
Now you are. Now you're good.
Yeah,
now you're good. You got that beautiful ring on your finger, baby. And the relationship to money is a real relationship. And I know I can speak for myself, I grew up with a real poverty mindset. And when I was 21, I had a quantum shift around my money.
What was that shift?
It was, if you'd asked me this 25 years ago, I would have been, or 26 years ago, I would have been like, oh, I'm scared it's going to go away, or like, I don't want it to leave me, or I got to hold on so tightly. I'd have a very like anxious attachment style to my money. And then when I was 20, I was promoting parties and nightclubs, and I had a good time doing it. My cousin owned the club, and I was like, say Gabby at the door, and I would get a percentage of the bar. And I remember the first night I did that club, I made $1,000 cash.
Wow.
And I was like, and that could have been two choices. I could have been like, oh, still not good with money. Or I chose in that moment, I'm going to make money easy.
And it started to shift for you?
Yeah, it was a quantum shift. I don't think that's always so accessible to people, but that shift showed me that I had proof that I could do this. And from that point forward, I made the commitment that my parents' relationship to money was not going to be mine.
Because what was the thoughts or the feelings or the words that was used around money growing up for you?
I like how we literally just went right into you being the host of the show.
I think it's interesting. Everyone should be reflecting on their money story. And that's one of the things we talk about.
You're so good at interviewing people, though. You're just like, let's get in here. Okay.
Because your money story dictates your money style. How you kind of interact with money today is based on your story. And if you're not reflecting on it, then you're going to just be reactive around money, how you've always been, until you really start to take inventory and reflect on, oh, this is my money history. These are the things, the wounds, the highs, the lows that happen that determine how I show up, my personality style with money today. And I have many stories that shaped my, kind of money style in my teens, my 20s, and my 30s. That until I started doing more of the healing work and making friends with money, that's when it started to come to me more effortlessly. Because there's two types of people. There's people that can make money but feel unhappy, and there's people that can make money and feel more peace and with their money.
Yes.
And a lot of people we know who've made a lot of money don't know how to feel good about themselves still, no matter how much they have. A few years ago, I was living in a building down the street during the pandemic.
This is a beautiful story for
I was living in a building down the street during the pandemic, a really nice building. It was probably one of the most expensive buildings to live in for an apartment here in LA. And I'm coming back from a trip, and all of a sudden, as I pull into the valet, there's a white tent in the valet. And I kind of sarcastically say, someone didn't jump, did they? It was a very tall building. And the valet person said, yes, and we have to reroute you this way. I go, are you serious? And I go, who was it? And they said the name, and I was like, man, I don't know that person, but I know who he is. I did a little research on him. He's supposed to be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And I was just like, how could someone with that much money, who seemed to have it all, who was in the right circles, who had the right relationships, who had notoriety, why would he jump?
Yeah.
Why would he commit suicide? Why would he take his life? And there were other factors that didn't cause him to have a rich life inside. He might have had wealth, but he didn't feel rich inside. And I don't know all the factors on why he decided to commit suicide, but there are a lot of people who are stressed, overwhelmed, and don't feel good about themselves, even though they have money.
Yeah.
And that is not a rich life.
Yeah.
That is a poor life in my mind, because you're still a prisoner. You have money, and yet you can't enjoy your life with it.
Yeah.
And I've felt that probably in my late 20s, early 30s, where I had a lot of fun, but I had anxiety around money still.
Yeah.
And I just stacked it. I was just like,
Yeah.
I don't want to lose it.
Yeah.
I don't want to go back to my sister's couch.
Yeah.
So I'm going to still sleep on couches at friends' houses. I'm still going to ride in the back of the bus to get places. I want to get the cheapest, most connection flight to get somewhere so I don't have to overspend. And I was like, I've got money in the bank. What am I doing? But I was still anxious around it. So sure, I had fun, but when it came to having to spend money, I didn't enjoy it. I was worried.
It's funny because you're talking about this like any kind of relationship that you build. And as you grow in relationships, your relationship to that person or that money will change. And you're making me realize that, you know, like I had that quantum shift as a kid, 20, whatever. But I too, like you, I mean, there was years that I went maybe like 8 years into my career where I was like, so underserved, so like I prided myself on how little I spent.
You did it all yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so there was even more shifts as you heal. It's like, so there's the first phase of recognizing, and I think that you opening the book with this, with the story of the man that took his life. That was a really important place for me when I read you, when you opened the book with that, because you're first teeing it up saying money is not going to be the answer. Money's not going to be your source of happiness.
You know, being poor is not the answer either.
That's not either.
You know, living in poverty is not the answer also.
The answer is make money easy because of the inner shifts inside.
Yeah, and really learning to heal your money wounds first, so that when you're building your bank account, when you're increasing your net worth, when you're making more money, you're not anxious, you're not avoidant. When that money enters the room, I gave you a $2 bill when I entered the room. When money comes to you, you just want to notice, how do I feel about it? There's a great book called Happy Money by Ken Honda, where he says, every time you receive money, you want to thank money.
Yeah.
You want to thank it, whether it be internally or literally out loud. Thank you. Thank you for coming to me. Now, where would you like to go?
Yeah.
Would you like to go to my bank account? Would you like to pay off some of my credit cards? Would you like to go to my student loans? Would you like for me to buy coffee? Would you like me to give this to a stranger?
Yeah.
Where do you want to go? Ask it.
Yeah.
Again, it's like a relationship entering the door. How are you? Thank you for being here. What's going on in your life? What would you like to do today? Build that relationship with money and watch your entire world around money start to change.
So let's talk about building the relationship with money. Okay. So there's a beautiful message in the book that your money story is true for you and shapes everything you do. We have to start there because we attract what we believe.
Yes.
Our money mindset creates our money reality. Our self-worth creates our net worth.
Yes.
So my love, talk to me about.
Yeah. So if you think money is
story.
hard, so if you say money is hard, it's always been hard. It's always been a struggle. My parents fought over money. My parents got a divorce over money. And so I've always had this anxiety and uncertainty around money. That is going to be your money story. And it's going to shape your money style. And when you put those two things together, it's going to create the results in your life about what money is for you. And maybe you figured out how to work really hard to make money. You've gotten a really great job, or you're an entrepreneur and you've grinded yourself to the ground where you're like, okay, I've figured out how to get results, but you don't feel peaceful inside about those results. It's never enough.
Yeah.
And you're exhausted, you're burnt out, you're exhausted. So you've learned how to make it, but that story still dictates your style. So you may be good at making it still, but it's not easy. and you don't appreciate it or enjoy it.
Yeah.
And that is like living in a money prison.
Or more often than not, you don't even know how to make it.
And most people don't know how to make it. And
Don't know
that's
how
the
to
hard
make
thing.
it.
If you have that money story, then you're probably not educating yourself around money because you're afraid of it. You're worried about it. You're anxious. You don't understand it. I didn't understand it growing up. I was like, I don't know. I didn't ask the questions around money because I was afraid of it. And because we didn't have a lot early
You never
on.
talked about it.
Yeah. So it was just kind of like, and my parents really fought all the time. They got a divorce and it just seemed like it was stressful. Life was hard. And so that was part of my money story. It was tied to money as well and making money. And I wasn't educated enough about how to make money. Now, my dad did do certain things where he showed me in different ways about how to appreciate life. So he had a rich life, even though he didn't make a lot of money. Until I was in my teen years, he started to make more. So I saw him going from poor. He had my older brother when he was 19. He and my mom, they were kids. They were still in school.
I love your brother, by the way.
They were working hard. Yeah. And it wasn't until he was probably in his late 30s when he started to make multiple six figures, working hard, selling life insurance for 20, 30 years, right? And so in my teen years, he started to make a little bit more and started to have a sense of financial freedom for him. So I started to see things shift. The energy started to shift. But something he did, he lived by a generous mindset principle. And all the time, he tried to bring joy to interactions. He tried to appreciate individuals. He tried to give people big hugs. It's probably why I give people big hugs today. And he always tipped in $2 bills. Since the day I can remember going out to a restaurant with him, he would give a $2 bill as a tip. And I'd always watch the waiter or waitress like light up. It was just like, whoa. And just like she said earlier, she's like, oh, they don't even make those anymore. Like there's always something in interaction when you do something generous for someone else in a unique way. It doesn't have to be giving money or a $2 bill, but that's just what I watched my dad do. He wanted to make people smile.
Yeah.
And again, if you think back into, if I enter a room, how can I be generous to someone else in some unique way that is unique to me? I like to give people hugs. Maybe you compliment someone. Maybe you give someone a $2 bill, whatever it might be. How can you be generous? And that mindset of generosity, I believe, is the foundation for unlocking abundance financially and also internally, inner peace. When we come with generosity first, it is the gateway to abundance.
The mindset of generosity unlocks abundance. Boom. Excellent. If you like this video and you want to get more Gabby, check out the next one right over here.